Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be driving on Greenland, the newest track to come to Asphalt 9 in the most recent Bring the Heat update, and giving my opinions on it. Please consider subscribing if you have not already, and be sure to check out my Furum Clips channel, as well as my new Furum TV channel and the Purple Team Discord. You can find links to all of those down in the description, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So Greenland just came out this morning as I am recording this. It might be yesterday for some of you guys who are ahead, but in any case, I want to get a video up about this track as soon as possible, because based on the teasers and everything we've seen, it looks really cool, and after driving on it, I can say that it is a fairly enjoyable track with a couple of issues that I will talk about. But overall, I can say I do very much enjoy it. In this video, I'll be testing it with 4 different cars on 4 different variants, and pretty much just want to give you a general overview of the different parts of the track and tell you what everything does. So, at its core, Greenland is part a snowy ice track and part a volcanic track. You could see the volcanic part earlier on in this race. Most of the track is the ice part, but the volcanic part is probably my favorite section because it's got a couple of new mechanics. Namely, when you go over a lava pit, the steam or whatever is rising up and you actually get boosted up into the air. And in the ice cave, you can actually just drive on the walls. I don't think we've seen anything quite like that in an Asphalt game before, correct me if I'm wrong. I know we've had like half pipes and stuff, but never just like completely driving on the wall, perpendicular to the ground. Moving on to our second race, I wanted to see what would happen if I drove less of a agile car as I did in the first race, because the Corvette race that you just saw was the very first race I actually ever played on this track. And yeah, I just wanted to see what would happen if you took out a car that was more top speed oriented that cannot handle all that well, namely the F12 TDF. Now, Greenland reminds me of New York in the sense that it does have some sections that are pretty long and straight that could be decent for high top speed cars, which we will be testing in the race after this, by the way, with the Regera and the VESK. But there are definitely some tight corners and curves as well that you have to keep in mind. Now, here, you may notice that if you've driven on this track, you get it seemingly randomly pushed to the right or randomly pushed to the left back there. The reason for that is apparently there is an aircraft or something like taking off, which is pushing you over. And then the other cool new feature on this track are these geysers, which will push you up into the air. The cool thing about these, if you have nitro, especially shockwave, and you go up them, they are pretty much like ramps and you can gain a lot of airspeed, but you do have to be careful with them because, as you will see in, I think, the next race, if you're not careful, you can lose your, I guess, your direction in the air and you can go flying into a wall. But as you could see in that race, you can also use them to get onto a higher ledge if you do so properly. Now, the geysers are not always going. They are on some kind of timer, which I do not know exactly what it is, but I am sure that people will figure out ways of the exact timings of those and how to use them to best get good times on this track. Now, we are playing in the Regera, a more high top speed car that again doesn't handle super well, and this is one of the longer tracks that is in the career season. I think there were a total of 8 different variants in the career season. There are 9 actual races, but there is one variant that is repeated twice. And here, this is where I lost control due to the geysers and went into the wall. They can kind of obscure your view, and if you are going in a very fast car, sometimes it can be a little difficult to tell where you're going when you get out of them. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. Some of you guys have asked me when I'm going to be making a video about the stats of the new cars in this update. Well, as of now, I do not have max stats for the cars. I will be making a video about them just as soon as I get them, but for now, you can check the stock stats of some of the new cars by going into the Bring the Heat season and going to some of the races and scrolling through, and you can see like the new Ferrari, for example. Now, you can also see a couple of cars that they didn't tell us about. Well, they were in the banner, but they weren't actually shown as new cars in, I guess, in the patch notes. namely the Lycan Interceptor and the other one as well, the one that we see on the tracks all the time. Well, you actually will be able to drive them, probably in the Drive Syndicate, which is coming on July 28th, I believe. That's what it says when you go into the update for the first time. And you can find them by scrolling through a couple of the races. They're actually very high toward the end of their classes. So the regular old Security Interceptor is at the very top of Class B, actually above the F1LM and right below the W12. And then the Lycan Interceptor is at the high end of Class S, above the Chiron and below the LVN. I'll be very interested to see how they actually compare to all of those cars. And when or if we will actually be able to get them, because if we are, that would be so weird, just seeing like these security cars at the top of event leaderboards, if indeed they are that good, which remains to be seen. Now, in this final race, I'm going to be playing this track in the VESK, and I have to say, I had a lot of fun driving the track with this car. It's definitely got a very good variety of tight curves and then straight sections to make it really interesting no matter what car you are driving. And I do think that this will be a track that cars like the VESK will be able to do very well on once people figure out, like, say for example, where is the best places to do the floaty drifting or punch drifting, and what's the best way to actually take advantage of some of the new features like the geysers, and then in the cave, the hot steam things that push your car up in the air. Speaking of those, this is one of the issues that I was talking about. So if you come up to one of these, it pushes your car up, but sometimes it doesn't really go where you want it to. And yeah, that's something that we can just get from experience, but this next one is not so easily dealt with. You see, sometimes it doesn't actually raise your car high enough, and you just clip the edge and you lose a ton of speed. I think this is due to the car just being too fast for how quickly it raises you up. And thankfully, since I was driving a fast car, and most of the cars that I'm going up against were not so fast, I was able to catch up in the career season, but I can see in multiplayer this being somewhat annoying, so I hope they somehow are able to fix that. And also, I must say, some of the variants of this track actually have purple arrows around the corners where they're normally that cyan color, so that's a nice touch. I wonder why they decided to do that. If you would like to try out this track for yourself, go to the end of career and find the Bring the Heat season, and there you'll be able to play all 8 variants. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt, Forza, Minecraft, and other games content, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!